So let's talk about Bates Motel, the TV show, because I just reviewed all the Psycho movies, and I, of course, have to talk about this fantastic show. This is one of the best, television iterations of a film I have ever seen. This is incredible. One of the, I've watched it through once, all the way through, and it is incredible. It moves me in how they can do such a fantastic job to have a contemporary version of this film of Psycho, but it is incredible in how they retell this story, but in a way where they don't have to rely on the original, where it actually gives legit surprises. And first off, I gotta say the acting in this show is incredible. Freddie Highmore and Vera Farmiga, just some literally they give Freddie Highmore gives Anthony Perkins a run for his money in a lot of moments in this show. And Vera Farmiga, even though Olivia Hussey in Psycho 4 was great, Vera Farmiga also gives her a run for her money because they both are incredible. They, in terms of how great the writing is and how great in terms of the acting is, these two in particular just give off such a legitimately compelling version of these characters in a way where you feel immense sympathy for them. You understand that they're messed up, they've got problems, but it truly feels like these actors just gave it their all and gave fantastic Oscar-winning performances. I really wish that they would have gotten some kind of recognition for TV, because unless they did, I don't even know honestly, but they deserve it because both of these actors in this are fantastic. It honestly reminds me of how Mads Mikkelsen plays Hannibal Lecter in the show Hannibal. The same kind of factor applies there because Anthony Hopkins is incredible as Hannibal in the movies, but in Hannibal the show, Mads Mikkelsen again gives him a run for his money in terms of just again how incredible that he is too. It's the same kind of thing where these two actors in the show are incredible and give the regular actor a run for their money from the movies. I just love this show so much, and I love how they, even though Psycho 4 did this, they delve into their relationship so well with how Norman and Norma, how they have kind of only each other. But in this, as opposed to the version with Olivia Hussey in Psycho 4, I feel like Norma in this one is still crazy. She's obviously crazy, but you truly see why this character is damaged and why she does all these horrible things and how she makes these mistakes that break Norman even more. So she is self-destructive in every single way towards her and Norman and everybody around her. But with the performance and the writing, it just gives off such a compelling character. She truly blows me away in the show. And you really see how Norman has this horrible childhood and how it, you see him with his dad dying and you realize who kills him later, but Norman has these blackouts because of stuff like that. And then as the show goes on, he slowly becomes so much more unhinged because of everything going on around him, because of how Norma treats him, because of how he realizes parts about his family's past, about Norma, and how she hides a lot of this stuff from him. And it truly just is incredible writing, just showing how Norman breaks in this show. And especially with his relationship with, say, Bradley and Emma, these two girls in the show. Emma's the one who makes it to the end. Bradley's the first one, and she dies, of course, but they both, those characters too, give Norman such an identity to him, and how he evolves is because of Sade with them too, and how his relationship with with Dylan is, his brother, who it works well because of Norman being so close to his mother while Dylan is not, because you realize that Dylan is literally inbred from him and from Norma and her brother Caleb. So it works well with all these relationships, and Norma's relationship with like Chief Romero, where she becomes lovers in them towards the end, and of course you know what happens in the movie whenever Norman found her and her lover in bed. But it's different than that. It's not like he does die, but it's way later in the show, and it's not the same kind of thing. But their relationship is great, Norma and Romero is stuck between guiding this town, which is under all of these giant drug rings, where he is stuck in this situation of that and dealing with Norma and dealing with Norman and realizing how screwed up they are. And it really does give off such a great way of iterating that, or involving that character Romero into all the characters' interactions, because he's the sheriff of the town, so he sees all these hints leading up to what will happen to him inevitably. But it's great. And like I said with Dylan, like it's great with that character too, because he's got literally like even worse problems than Norman in a lot of ways, because he's inbred from his mother and Caleb, like her brother. Like he literally, like he shouldn't, like it's just, think of just the thought of that being like a thing, having your like you literally have like not a, like you're, it's a creepy thing. I don't know how to explain it, but it just really, it works well with that Caleb character too, because he has, or Dylan character, sorry, with Dylan, because he just is so like I like how he's the normal one out of the two, even though he's had that, as opposed to Norman. But I just think it's interesting with his character and his dynamic with his relationship, and how eventually he and Emma become together. And it just shows how great of these characters and how they bond together. And then Caleb, like I said, the character who is Norma's brother, who also, like, he just had sex with her a lot as a kid, like brother and sister. And I think that it's disgusting. It's a disgusting way of like, it works well because it's disgusting, and it makes the show really interesting in that aspect, because it's hard to watch because of all of how they described this stuff, and how they were children, and how they had to deal with their horrible parents, and they only had each other, her and Caleb. So it's creepy, but it's just so well written and so interesting that, like, I take it, I'm like, it's good storytelling, like, even though it's creepy to have stuff like that. And I don't know, it really gets me. And then I really want to talk about basically the end of the show, like season 4, the end of season 4 and beyond, because there's only 5 seasons, but I want to talk about how the show is resolved. And I love the fact that the show is resolved in a way that's not the same as the movie, in which Norma dies, like Norman kills her, and he almost dies with her until Romero gets him out, because he lights the house, like the gas in the house, to where they would die of asphyxiation. But Romero gets Norman out, and then Romero's taken to prison, and then Romero strives to get out to kill Norman because he knew that he killed her. And I love the fact that the show ends with, like season 5, it ends with how Norman gains a relationship with this girl who's Sam Loomis's wife, and she looks just like Norma. And I love that, and I love how they have that relationship together. And I love how Sam Loomis has this relationship with Rihanna's character, Marion Crane, which it's so cool to see Marion Crane in this version too. Another iteration of Marion Crane. And I really liked Rihanna in the 2 episodes she was in. She was really good. And I love the fact that this had a great twist. And like I said, it doesn't rely on the original movie, like in a lot of ways. Like, it uses things from it, but it makes it its own thing. Because there's that shower scene where Marion goes in, and then she is taking a shower, and then she stops and says, "Screw this," and then she leaves to find Sam, and realizes that Sam's a pig. And I like how Sam Loomis becomes the one that is the one that's killed, because Marion does take the money, but she just leaves. And I like that. That's so cool, and that's such an interesting difference in the show, like, to the movie. And I love how we got the shower scene with Sam. Like, that was a cool swap, where I'm just like, that makes sense because this character is horrible, like as he goes along. But he's not horrible in the way Marion Crane is in any of the iterations, where Marion Crane just stole money. Like, she made a mistake, and Sam Loomis in this one is just a dick. Like, he's a pig, and he just is with the couple of girls at the same time, and they all just realize this and can't stand him. And I like how he gets it because of that. Like, that made more sense than just an innocent girl getting it, but that makes it more scary too, like in the original and the remake and whatever. But I liked how Marion got away. Like, that's really cool. And she never comes back, because after that episode, like, she drives away. And I love the final confrontation with Dylan, where it's literally just like no, Dylan has such a breaking point at the end of the show where he knows he can't do anything about Norman. He knows it is the end for it. And then, of course, he actually kills Norman, like Norman dies. And that inevitable build-up, I did not expect. I expected Norman to live, and run the Bates Motel. Like I thought it would build right into the movie. Like, he would become Anthony Perkins, basically. It would build right into that movie. But I love the fact that it didn't. I love the fact that he died, and I love the fact that the whole show, Norman Bates, you feel so much sympathy for him and for Norma, even though, like I said, the relationship is so fucked up and so incredibly crazy. But it blows me away. Watching this all the way through, it blew me away, these characters. And like I said, the final confrontation between him and Dylan is heartbreaking, and it actually works really incredibly well, because Dylan, one of the last people standing, knows everything that Norman is. And Norman finally dies, and I like the fact that Dylan and Emma, who have a kid, live on, and that's it. And I love the fact that it ends on the gravestone with just Norma and Norman just dead together, which adds to the creepiness, but that really just works, again, so well. Just so well in how these characters are. The writing is incredible. The characters are so sympathetic, and you really feel so much for all of these characters, and the whole story of the entire show is not just fixated on Norman and Norma. It's literally about Caleb and Romero and Dylan and all these other characters, Bradley, Emma, like all these characters around Norman Bates make him into what he is. But it's just incredibly well written, where everybody has their spotlight, everybody shines. It's literally all about these characters. It's not just they're the side characters. They literally are as important as Norman is. They all affect him, he affects them. And like I said, acting is incredible, writing is incredible. When it's brutal, it's brutal. When it's scary, it's scary. And it does so many things, like I said, with the last season especially, where it's not like the original. Because it does have a shower scene, but it's it gets Sam Loomis instead of Marion. And Norman dies at the end. And I think that all those changes make this a worthy, different iteration. And I feel like they had to do that after the remake in 1998, or remake, the clone in color. It's a clone of the original movie in color. But they had to do that after making that Psycho remake in 98. This is incredible, and it gives for me personally, it gives the first two movies a run for its money, and just how incredibly well written it is, how incredibly well acted it is, how incredibly brutal and satisfying it is by the end, and how emotionally invested you get into these characters and feel so much sympathy for them, even though they're horrible people. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And it's so incredibly well. So many great players. Everything about it just is utterly fantastic, and I loved every second of it. And I've only seen it through once, and I think I'll eventually watch it through again one day, but man, this show just blew me away, and I loved it so much. And I'm glad I talked about Bates Motel, the show, because I was, like I said, I just reviewed all the movies, and I was like, well, I need to review this, but I haven't watched the show in a while, because I finished it whenever season 5 ended, but I still remember enough to, I feel warranted it. So yeah, this was just an incredible show, and if anybody hasn't watched it, and please don't watch this if you haven't watched it, because you're spoiled, but And I feel like you probably didn't, unless you just don't care about spoilers. But whatever. I just it blows me away. Just I love the show. If anybody else has seen it, tell me what you think. I think it's utterly fantastic.